Hello students, just want to post a quick clarification about the Chicago Convention on International Civil Aviation. So we had seen in the previous class that Article 5 speaks about right of non-scheduled flight, and it says non-scheduled flight can go non-stop across the territory of state. And Article 6 talks about scheduled air services, and it says no scheduled air services may be operated over or into the territory without permission. So Article 6 speaks about scheduled air services, and it says they cannot operate without permission. And Article 5, which speaks about non-scheduled flights, it says these flights can take place even without permission. Though this is stated in the text and this is the textual interpretation, but if you go by state practice has been such that Article 5 is not really enforced in full spirit, means even non-scheduled flights have to take permission. So this is an example of the change in interpretation of a text of a treaty by state practice, because all states have unanimously, or most of the states in their practice have shown that even for non-scheduled flights they would ask for, or they would require permission, right? So this article has not been enforced in its true spirit, and its interpretation is different when you just read the text, which says non-scheduled flights can have non-stop access without needing permission. But if you see the state practice, permission is required, similar to Article 6. Article 6 anyway says that no scheduled air service may be operated without permission. So Article 6 requires permission. Article 5 says some non-scheduled flights can go without permission, but this has not been enforced in true spirit by states, and state practice has resulted in change of interpretation of Article 5. See this, what Malcolm Shaw says. Well, Malcolm Shaw also points out to this. He says that while talking about Article 5, he says that this provision has in practice been viewed as an exception to the general principle enumerated in Article 6 of the Convention, particularly since states have required that permission be obtained prior to the acceptance of charter flights over or onto their territory, even though such flights do not really come within the meaning of Article 6 or within the definition of scheduled air services put forward by the Council of International Civil Aviation Organization in 1952. It is one more example of state practice modifying the original interpretation of the treaty stipulation. So he says the general rule which is laid down in Article 6, right? The general rule says that permission is required for scheduled air services, but that is an exception. He says Article 5 was supposed to be an exception to the general rule, but that has not been enforced in the same way. Even for strictly non-scheduled flights as well, states have required a permission to be granted before they allow the non-scheduled flights to pass above their territory. Alright, and I'll read this part again. States have required that permission be obtained prior to the acceptance of charter flights over the territory, even though such flights do not come within the meaning of Article 6, right, or within the definition of scheduled international air services. This is one more example of state practice modifying original interpretation of the treaty. Okay, so that's all. I'll be posting a video on outer space law very soon. We only had to learn this much in air law because this is sufficient for introduction, and remember, we are only studying the aspects of air law which are related to territory, right? Because we were studying territory before this, so we are studying the concepts of air law only to the extent that it talks about territory. There are many other aspects of air law which we are not studying, like air hijacking or air jurisdiction, things like that, because they don't really fall into this unit, first of all, and second of all, this does not really fall into the scope of our syllabus. So for an introduction, that much suffice. Thank you.